Okay, so now let me step on to the today's topic. So today we are going to deeply discuss about the locators. Okay, so assume that how we are going to like uh, interact with the particular node in the sense only with the help of the locators. So there are different types of locators like ID, name, XPath, and then CSS selector, link text, and partial link text, and tag name. Okay, so these are the 8 different types of locators which are available in the Selenium. So in which we have deeply discussed about the ID and the name locator as well as the XPath. So whenever we are planning to use an ID attribute, we can stick with an ID locator. If you are planning to use the name attribute, so the name locator will work. So in case of an XPath, we can use any of the attribute, which means we can use any element. So in an XPath, we are having two types. One is called as an absolute XPath, and other we call it as an relative XPath. So I told so the absolute XPath always start with a single slash, and it will traverse from the head to tail. And in the real time, we won't use the absolute XPath. So the reason is it will leads to the code breakage. So whenever the new field is introduced in the UI, so due to introduction of new field at the back end, the new node will be introduced, and it will leads to breakage of the regular expression of the absolute XPath. That is the reason we are not using the absolute XPath. Rather than we will be prefer to use the relative XPath. So relative XPath in the sense it doesn't care about the following or the preceding nodes. So instead of it it will whatever the attribute and attribute value which we have provided in the syntax, so which we call it as a double slash tag name square bracket at attribute is equal to attribute value. So whenever the attribute and attribute value matches with the backend DOM structure, it will perform the respective action over it. Okay, so now assume that in order to do an automation, so as I told yesterday, so let me just open this Salesforce and then let me just proceed further. So yesterday I have just right click and inspected this error message, so in which we can pick any of the attribute and attribute value. The rule here is so whatever the attribute and attribute value which we are going to use, it should be unique. So which is nothing but it should be kind of an one of one result. So how we can conclude whether it is one of one result in the sense we can convert it as an XPath sentence. So let's say I'm traditionally converting an XPath sentence. So double slash the tag name is div, and the attribute which I'm going to use here is called as a class, and I'm providing the attribute value. The attribute value is login error. So now I'm just trying to paste the syntax in the DOM structure. So just click anywhere in the HTML code and click Control F. So this search window will be opening at the bottom. So just place the syntax. So now if I place the syntax, so I'm getting multiple result. So I'm getting one of two. So if I hover my mouse over the first result, it is not highlighting the error message in the UI. So which means it is not a correct node. So when I click on the second result, okay, so it is highlighting the respective node. So in this case, assume that even the ID is not unique, the area live is not unique, so the style is not unique. So assume that whatever the attribute which are available in the current node is not an unique. So which means we don't have any option. So when I try to use the class, I'm getting the multiple result. When I'm trying to use an ID, so I'm getting a multiple result. Even if I use the area live attribute, so it is throwing the multiple result. So but for sure we need to extract the error message. So how we are going to handle this situation in the sense, so when we don't have any unique element in the node, then we may seek help from the surrounding node. Okay, So whenever like in a real time, so you will face this situation more frequently. So you won't be able to find the unique attribute and attribute value in a particular node. So in that case, like we may depends upon the surrounding node. So whenever the surrounding node comes into the picture, so we call it as an XPath access. So what is mean by XPath access in the sense like we are going to access the particular node, which means like we are going to access this particular node with the help of the surrounding elements. So surrounding elements in the sense either with the help of the above or the below node. So in order to use the surrounding node, so we are having different types of XPath access. So one we call it as an parent, next we call it as an child, then following, preceding, then there is another type called as an following child, then so preceding child, ancestor, then descendant. Okay, so these are the different types of XPath access available in the Selenium. So whenever you are planning to use the surrounding nodes, so or we can also call as an surrounding elements, then the XPath access will come into the picture. So like and how we are going to use this XPath access in the sense, so generally we are going to fix a node. So we are going to fix a node first, and post that we are going to integrate the XPath access along with it. So what is meant by fixing a node in the sense? So for example, so in our case, in this case, right? So the particular the class or ID is not unique. So I'm going to depend upon the like surrounding nodes. So let's say I'm picking one of the surrounding node. So I'm going to use this node called as an form. So which contains various elements like name is equal to login, ID is equal to login form, etc. So I'm going to check whether the ID or name is unique or not. So I'm just going to convert in an XPath that's a syntax. I'm just changing the attribute and then I'm changing the tag name. So I'm going to check whether it is unique or not. So if you see like it is returning like one of one result. So which means this particular node have some unique attribute and attribute values. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fix this node. So from this node, I'm going to traverse to this particular node called as an div class is equal to login error. So initially, like we need to fix a node, and the fixed node should contain some unique attribute and attribute value. And how we are going to fix the node in the sense, like generally we write it as an XPath. Okay, so we need to write the XPath for the fixed node. So and then we need to amend the XPath access along with it. So this is the fixed node. So just we have written the XPath syntax. So I'm going to use the XPath syntax, and along with like we are going to use the XPath access. So like whenever you are planning to use the XPath access, so like you should use the single slash followed by the keyword of the XPath access. Okay, so before using this XPath access, so we need to understand the HTML structure. So like we need to re-understand the HTML structure. So for easy understanding, so you can always have the blood relation concept in your mind. Okay, so like what is my blood relation? So blood relation in the sense like we can say like we will be having some like current generation. So current generation in the sense, let us take our parents as an example, and we will be having some previous generation. So we can have our grandparents as an example, and next generation. So we can call the child, or we can consider us as the next generation. Okay, so generally, like always have the blood relation concept in the mind. So we will be having three type of a relation. So if we will be having the parents, and the parent will have their own parent. So we call them as a grandparent, and if the parent have the kids, like we call them as a child. So they are going to be act as the next generation. So in the same way, the HTML DOM structure will be designed. So the HTML code will follow the same structure. So which means the HTML code will contain some parent node. It will contain the child node as well as like it will contain the grandparent node. Okay, so we need to segregate who is the parent, who is the child, and who is the grandparent. So generally, like as I told, there will be always two type of tag. One we call it as an open tag, and another we call it as an like close tag. So like
Oh,
open tag in the sense, like it will be we will be having the sentence called as and greater than less than symbol. So whereas like the close tag in the sense, like it will be terminating at something. So either it may terminate at the same line or it will be terminate at the different line. So now let us try to relate the same in the backend DOM structure. So now assume that like, so this is the particular node which we have selected. So in which like you could able to see there is a tag name called as a form. So which is nothing but it will act as a open tag. And also if you see the arrow mark is pointing towards the like bottom of the HTML DOM structure. So I already told, so when the node when this arrow mark is placing to the bottom of the DOM structure, it indicates the node is open. So if I click on it, so if it point to the like to the right side, it indicates the particular node is closed. As this is the fixed node, I'm just opening up the node. So whenever I open the node, so like you could see, it is the form tag starts from here and it will terminate at somewhere below. Okay, so it will terminate at somewhere below. So how we can identify in the sense, like you could see some line is populating here. So which means it indicates like it is closing somewhere here. You could see the form tag. So it is starting at here and it is terminating at this particular point. You could see the arrow mark, it is terminating at this particular point. So which means this form tag is going to act as a parent. So when I close this parent tag, all the node which is present inside the form tag like field set div and this div label, so everything is getting closed. Okay, so because this is going to act as a parent node. So now if I expand this node, so now I could see the below nodes called as a field set div label input. So these are the node which is present inside the form tag. So as it is present inside the form tag, so we can say, so the form tag is going to act as a parent, and whatever the node which is present below, so we can call it as a child node. So the relation here is like, so the form tag will act as a parent, this field set will act as a child, this div will act as a child, so this div tag will act as a child, this label tag, this input tag, everything will be acting as a child. So the reason is like because they are present inside the form tag. So as they are present inside the form tag, so this form tag will act as a parent. Okay, so here what is the relation we are establishing is the sense like this form tag will act as a parent, and then below which like we are having multiple child node. And even if you see, we can able to expand the child node. So for example, if I expand the first child node called as a field set, okay, I'm expanding the field set. So now the field set node is opening at this point and it is closing somewhere below. Now the field set is having multiple child nodes. Okay. So for this node called as an input type is equal to hidden, or this input type is equal to hidden name is equal to with. So for this child node, the field set will act as a parent. So because they are present inside the field set node. And what is the relationship between this input tag and the form tag in the sense. So now we can easily relate. So who is the parent of the input tag? So obviously it is going to be the field set. And who is the parent of the field set? So it is a form tag. So then what is the relationship between this input and form? Then they are the grandparent. And what is the relationship between the form and the input? So it will act as a grandchild. And what is the relationship between field set and the input? It will act as a child. And what is the relationship between this input and the field set? It will act as the parent. So likewise, we need to establish the relation. And also, right, even this form tag contain multiple child node. So then what is the relationship between this div node and the field set node in the sense? So they will act as a siblings. So which means the field set is sibling for the div, and this div tag is sibling for this field set, and this as well as the div as well as the label and input. And there are two types of sibling. So one we call it as an following sibling, and another we call it as an preceding sibling. So generally, so what is the meaning of following? So following is nothing but whatever which is coming up next, we call it as an following. So here the relationship between this div and the label is obviously a sibling, as they are present inside the common parent. So what kind of sibling in the sense? So as it is present next to the div, so we will be calling this label as a following sibling. So now in other case, if we ask what is the relationship between this label and the div, as the div sibling is present above. So whenever it is present above, or we can say it is previous, so which we call it as an preceding sibling. Okay, so we need to identify so whether it is a following sibling or a preceding sibling. So the following sibling in the sense, like when it comes to the next, we call it as a following. If it is acting as a previous one, so we call it as an preceding sibling. So we need to understand the relation. So we need to relate the structure, and we need to understand the relation. And once we establish the relation, then we can use this XPath access keyword along with the syntax, and we can form the regular expression of the XPath. So the regular expression of the XPath not only indicates the syntax of absolute XPath or the relative XPath. So like whatever the thing, like whatever the XPath access which we are going to use it up. So everything as a common, we call it as an a regular expression. So for example, let's say now I'm going to write the XPath access to iterate this error message. So where this error message is present? So this error message is present in this node. So like when I click this node, it is highlighting the error message. Now I need to traverse from this fixed node to this particular node, which means this is the parent. I need to traverse from parent to child. So when you are planning to traverse from parent to child, so you should use the keyword called as an child. So I will be using the keyword followed by the single slash. I'm going to use the keyword called as a child, and then like we should use the syntax called as an colon colon, and then we need to provide the tag name of the respective node. So I'm going to use the keyword called as an colon colon, and what is the tag name of the respective node? So which is nothing but we call it as a div. So I'm going to give it as a div. Okay, so now we have written the XPath access syntax. So now I'm let me trying to like copy paste the syntax, and I'm going to paste it in the DOM. So if I place it in the DOM, so you could see I'm getting multiple result. So why I'm getting the multiple result in the sense, because this particular parent have four div child. So this is the first div child, and if I click on this, it is highlighting the second div. And if I highlighting the if I go traverse to the next, it will highlight the third div, and it will be fourth div, which means like so we are having multiple div. So in this case, even if we try to use the syntax, it will extract the error message. So the reason here is like, so even though there are multiple result, so the it is falls under the first matching result. So generally I told one point, so we call it as a find element. So the find element always pick the first matching element. Okay, it will always pick the first matching element. But if you are not satisfied, you always need one of one result, then what you can do, you can add further conditions along with it. Suppose that you can add the XPath syntax, so you can choose any of the attribute and the attribute value. So now in this node, we are having an attribute called as a class. I'm just going to write it up. So at the class is equal to login error. So at class is equal to login error. So now if I write in this way, so we are able to iterate the respective node. So initially, so when we try to use this class is equal to login error, so it says it was not unique. But now what we have done, so we have fixed a node, so we are trying to traverse from the parent to the child. So in a parent we are validating, so whether the parent contain the attribute called as an id is equal to login form. So if it is satisfied, then we are traversing to its child with the help of the keyword called as a child, and in this child node we are going to check whether we are having the attribute called as an class is equal to login error. So the process of converting in this way, we call it as an XPath access, or altogether this is called as an regular expression of the XPath. And even we can use the syntax in our coding. So this is nothing but it is going to extract the error message, right? So yesterday we have written the code to extract the error message. Let me just open this basics automation. So where I could able to see like uh, this is the line where we have extracted the error message with the help of the XPath. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace this XPath syntax with the XPath access. So which means this XPath method will accept the regular expression of an absolute XPath, a regular expression of the relative XPath, as well as the regular expression of the XPath access. So we don't have a different methods for an absolute XPath or relative XPath or the XPath accesses. So we can use the common method and it will accept the regular expression of each and every sentences. So now if I run the script, so as it is of a one of one result, so for sure it will extract the error message. So in other case, so let's say, so I'm randomly picking something called as an div id is equal to username group. So I have written this syntax. So I have written div at id is equal to username group. So now as it is of an unique, so we could able to see it is showing like one of one result. So it is an unique node. Now from this unique node, I am planning to traverse to this form node. So what is the relationship between this particular node and the form node in the sense? Obviously, the form is going to act as a parent. So how you can identify whether it is a parent or not in the sense? If the arrow mark is pointing towards the bottom of the DOM structure, we can call it as a parent. So here you could see as it is of an placing to the bottom of the DOM structure, we can say this form as a parent. If I close it, so who is the parent of this form in the sense? This particular div. So if I close this node, then you need to look on the next open node. So which means this div id is equal to content will act as a parent for the below node. If I close this, we can able to see one more parent. So by this way, so we need to relate, so who is the parent, and then we need to just identify who is the child, and post identifying the child, so we should identify the relation whether it is a following child or the sibling child. And once the relationships are established, so we should use the appropriate keywords and we need to use it up. So now in our case, let's say like we are planning to traverse from this child node to parent node. So like how we have used the keyword called as a child to traverse from parent to child. If you are planning to traverse from child to parent, so then we should use the keyword called as an parent. So I'm just adding the single slash of a parent followed by colon colon. So what is the tag name? I can use the form. So when I click on the form, so you could see, so it is showing like one of one result. So if I hover the mouse over it, so it is navigating the entire section. So which is nothing but it has navigated to the form section. So you could see the form section is getting highlighted. So by this way, like we can traverse from the parent to child or child to parent. So the another advantage of using XPath in the sense, so with the help of the XPath, so we can traverse from parent to child or child to parent. So whenever we use an other locator, so we can't traverse from one node to the other node. But whenever we use the XPath, with the help of the XPath, so we can, so whenever we use the XPath, so we can traverse from like parent to child or to child to parent. So this traversing is possible, so only with the help of the XPath. So which means like whenever there is no unique element in a particular node, so for sure you need to traverse from one node to the other node. So for another example, let me just right click and insert this username text box. So we have used this in our coding. So assume that the provided attribute and attribute value are not unique. So which means like we are going to traverse from the parent to the child. So who will be the parent of this particular node? So obviously, so we need to look on the open tag. So how we can identify the open tag in the sense, if the arrow mark point towards the bottom of the DOM structure, so we can call it as an open tag. So which means this will act as a parent. So we are going to fetch the node, which means like we are going to write the XPath syntax for the fetched node. So now I can say double slash of div at id is equal to the syntax. So now we have fixed the node and the parent node is like kind of like one of one result. So from this parent node, I'm going to traverse to this username, username text box. So which is nothing but it is having the tag called as an input. But if you observe, like this particular parent have multiple input tag. So now let us try to use the keyword called as a child followed by colon colon. I'm going to provide the tag name called as an input. So when I provide the tag name called as an input, I'm getting three result. So the reason is like because like it is having three input child. So either you can provide any of the attribute value which is available in the node, or else we can provide the index value. So index value in the sense, so generally after the tag, right? So either you can provide the attribute or attribute value, or we can provide the tag name followed by the index. Okay, so in the DOM structure the index will always start from 1. So you could see like we are having three result. So we can say we are having three index. So if you need to consider the first matching result, then you can add the open and close square bracket and under which you can pass the index value as 1. So if I pass the index value as 1, so now it will become one of one result. So now in order to enter the username username field, in order to enter the value in the username field, so rather than using id or the XPath, we can use the XPath access as well. So for example, like this is the coding we have written, right? So like user find the element. So now instead of it, I can use the XPath access as well. So how I can use, so we are going to do the automation with the help of the WebDriver. The variable name of the WebDriver is driver. So I'm going to find the element. And how we are going to find the element in the sense, with the help of the XPath. So the XPath will accept the regular expression of the absolute, relative, as well as the XPath access. I'm just pasting the XPath access, and then like whatever the operation we need to do, like if you're planning to use the send keys, yes, we can use the send keys. Okay, so now we are having some duplicate line of code. We are performing the same operation in the above and the below node. If we like in order to make it unique, so I'm just going to add the double slash in front of it. So I already told, so whenever we add a double slash, so it will become the command line. So which means the Java won't consider the command line during execution. So the Java will execute line by line. So like it will execute the line number 12 followed by the 14 and then followed by the 18. So as it is of a command line, it won't consider it for an execution. So now this is a child. So from this child, if I plan to traverse back to the parent, yes, I can add a single slash. I can use the keyword called as an parent. So followed by the colon colon. What is the tag of the parent? We call it as an div. Okay. So we can mix the parent as well as the child syntax. So we can traverse to one fourth. So it is like there is no restriction, so stating that like if you have used the uh, if you have used the child keyword once, so we can integrate the parent keyword as well. So for example, from this parent, if I need to traverse to another parent, what I can do, I can add a one more single slash, and I can use the keyword called as a parent. So colon colon, what is the who is the parent? This div will act as a parent. I can add as give it as a div. So by this way, like we can keep on traversing to the parent node by adding the parent keyword. And then like by we can also add the child node. For example, if I need to traverse to this child called as a label, so as we are in this, as we are here, so now you could see this div tag is acting as a parent. When I expand it, it is having two child. One is of label child and another is like div child. If I planning to traverse to the label, yes, I can add the child keyword, okay, followed by colon colon, and I can give the tag name as a label. So by this way, so with the help of this keyword, so we can traverse to one fourth. So either you can traverse from the child to parent, or you can traverse from the parent to the parent, or from the parent you can traverse back to the child. So that is what I told. So with the help of the XPath, so we can able to traverse from parent to child or child to the parent. So till this point, does anyone have any doubt?
Yeah, without using XPath, can we say the attribute is unique or not?
Once you have gained an experience, then what you can do, you can rather than directly converting it as an XPath access. So if you could read this search bar, it states that find by string selector or XPath. So what is meant by string? So string is nothing but whatever the text value which is available, we call it as a string. So generally we call this attribute value as a string. So you can directly copy this attribute value and you can just check it in the DOM structure. So by this way, even you can able to find whether it is shown one of one result or not. So it is always not a mandatory like we should use the XPath. So once you are familiarized, then you can directly pick on the attribute value. So now, for example, if I'm going to use this password string, and if I search, I'm getting the multiple result. But how I can assume that it is unique or not in the sense? So you could see the first matching result is displaying in some text value. So if you are planning to use for an ID, so then for sure you can ignore this result and you can check the second matching result. And the second matching result, it is present in the for attribute. But in your case, you are checking the password is present in ID attribute. So because like as we you are going to use the ID locator, so the ID locator will specifically look on an ID attribute. So even if the same attribute value is present in different attribute, we can say it is we can ignore it up. Okay, so by this way, like we can ignore it up and we can came to know, okay, this id is present, which means like the fourth result, it is present in the fourth result. So now obviously like it will create a confusion for you guys, right? So that is what I told, like you can, as of now, you can stick with the XPath syntax and you can search using the XPath syntax. So once you get familiarized, then you can use the attribute value in the search bar. Even with the help of an attribute value, we can identify whether it is unique or not, because we can able to find by the string selector or XPath. So selector is nothing but which we call it as an CSS selector, so which we will be discussing in the later part of today.
Okay. And I have one more doubt.
Mhm.
Yesterday program, I got yellow lines on else if statement, but it is executed. It will give
So
output.
the yellow line doesn't indicates it's a error. So only the red lines are the error. So the yellow lines are just a warning. So when this warning occurs in the sense when the word is not available in the dictionary. So for example, if I give my name called as an Aravind, so this Aravind won't be available in the dictionary. So whenever we are using the non-dictionary words, so like it will throw it as an yellow line. So you can ignore it up. So if you give the dictionary words, so it won't throw any errors. Okay, so you can ignore you can ignore the yellow lines. If you get an yellow lines, that's not an issue. So that is not an error. So only the red lines are considered as an error. So those are mainly due to the non-used dictionary words.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, fine. So now let me just continue this XPath access. So now we are able to use the keywords like parent to child and the child to parent. In similar way, like we can traverse with the help of the following sibling and the preceding sibling. So let me just take this username stats as an example. Okay, so I'm going to write this XPath syntax for this particular node. Let me just reload this web page so that it will be get refreshed and all the cache data will be cleared. So I'm just right clicking and inspecting it up, and this is the node which is highlighting. So now let's say I'm making it as a fixed node. I'm converting it as an XPath syntax. So what is the XPath syntax? It is going to be a double slash tag name. So tag name is nothing but it is an input. So we can say double slash of input. So open and close square bracket at id is equal to in a single slash. So we can create it up. So now from this node, I need to traverse to the above node. So is it possible? Yes, for sure it is possible. So before that we need to understand the relation. So like we could see this is going to be act as the parent node. So as it is having the common parent, we can say it is a sibling as the div is present above it. So which is nothing but it is a previous node. So whenever it is a previous node, we call it as a preceding sibling. So when it is of a next node, we call it as a following sibling. So then in order to traverse to this particular sibling, then we should use the keyword called as an preceding sibling. Okay, I'm just using the keyword called as an preceding hyphen sibling, then colon colon, I am giving the tag name as a div. So if I use this particular keyword, so what happened? It has traversed to the preceding sibling. So now if from this preceding sibling, is it possible to traverse to this input? Yes, we can able to traverse. It is going to act as the following sibling as it is present next. We call it as an following sibling. Then you should add this single slash followed by you should use the keyword called as an following hyphen sibling. Okay, this is the syntax we need to follow. So like if it is of an preceding sibling, so we should use preceding hyphen sibling. If it is of a following sibling, we should use the keyword called as an following hyphen sibling, and post that we need to add the colon colon and we should give the tag name. So here we it is having three input tag, which is nothing but it is having three input following sibling. If you are planning to consider the first following sibling, then at the end you can add the index. Okay, and then now from the following sibling, if you're planning to traverse to the parent, Yes, I can traverse to the parent. I can use the keyword called as an parent. So followed by colon colon. What is the tag name of the parent? We call it as a div. So you can traverse to the parent. So by this way, like we can traverse, like we can play inside the HTML code, we can traverse inside the HTML DOM structure. So we can traverse from either from anywhere in the DOM structure. Even like let me take a few more example. Let me just copy paste the syntax first, and let me just open any other different web page. So let's say let me just open this amazon.in. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the random inspection. Okay, I'm just clicking on inspecting some random field. So now let it get displayed. Okay, so this is the random field. So now I'm asking you guys to traverse from this div class is equal to a hyphen image container to this particular div class is equal to a row. So how will you identify the relation and how you will traverse? So this is the fixed node. So let's say I'm just writing it as a fixed node. So like double slash of div at the class is equal to, so single slash I'm providing the attribute value. Okay, even this is not a unique. Let me find some unique node, and I will make this unique node as a fixed node. Is there is any unique node? Okay, let me just take this as a unique node. Okay, so double slash of input. So whenever you are fixing any node, the fixed node should be always unique. So in my case, so this is the node which is present here. So from this node, I need to traverse to this particular node called as a div class is equal to name, right? So how we can traverse to this particular node? So this is the fixed node. So from this fixed node, I need to traverse to this node called as an div class is equal to nav, right? So how you can traverse?
Following, using following.
So like how the following will occur? So we
By following
initially
Sibling.
initially we need to identify the first thing, who is the parent. So the parent is nothing but the open node. So if I identify the parent, if I just click on the parent, you could see like you could see the arrow mark, which is nothing but the div is opening at this particular line and it is closing at this line. So which means here the sibling is like only the label and input will act as a sibling. Then how will you traverse to this div class is equal to name, right? So you need to traverse node by node. So let me just tell you an example. So from here, I need to traverse to the particular parent. So like I can use the keyword called as an parent. Okay, colon colon. I'm just giving the tag name. So now I have traversed to the parent. So now from this parent, okay, so we need to traverse to this div class is equal to right. So we need to identify the relation. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to traverse to this another parent called as a div class is equal to name fill. I'm just using the parent colon colon. Okay, so div. So I'm traversing to this parent. Now my search result is like here. So we were here and we need to navigate to this name, right? Now if you observe, so it is present inside the common parent called as a form. So now what is the relationship between this nav fill and the nav, right? Obviously it is like kind of an following sibling. So now I should use the keyword called as an following hyphen sibling colon colon of div. Okay, so you could see we are getting the result. So by this way, like we need to like identify and we need to analyze and we need to traverse to the required node. So now in another angle, let's say, okay, So let's fix this nav right as a fixed node. Let me see whether this is unique or not. If it is of an unique, let me fix this node. So class is equal to nav right. Okay, it is having 3 result, or else like let me check whether it is unique or not. Okay, so now assume that like this is the fixed node. So from this node, okay, I need to traverse to this input type is equal to hidden, id is equal to iss prefix. So from this node I need to traverse to this below node. So what is the relation, how we will be traversing?
Child.
Child.
Parent child. So this is the parent node, and here the
Okay.
parent node is terminating here. So then if you use the parent child, let me use the parent keyword. Okay, so and I'm traversing to the particular tag. So now we are at this parent. So now we need to identify traverse to this input type is equal to right. So we need to identify the relation. So it is present below, and we need to reconfirm whether it is present in the inside the same parent or not. So you could see like we have one open tag which is nothing but it is pointing to the bottom of the DOM structure. So in this line, so we have the open form tag, and below we are having the close form tag. So now we can conclude, okay, these are kind of a sibling. So which means the relationship between the div and the input is kind of a sibling. And what sibling in the sense, like as it is present next, so we call it as an following sibling. So following hyphen sibling colon the tag name is like kind of an input, but we need the second result, right? So either you can give the index of 2, or in other case you can specify the attribute called as an id is equal to like whatever the id which is present here, so you can specify it over here. Okay, so now got an idea so how to use the XPath access. So like pretty much like we are going to play with this XPath access till the end of our training. So if there is any doubt, please let me know. So as of now, like we have discussed this parent child, this following child, and the preceding child. So we can discuss this next keywords like following, preceding, and ancestor and descendant in the upcoming examples. So till this point, does anyone have any other doubts? Yeah, for sure it will impact the um, XPath access as well. So whenever there is a change in UI, so for sure like it may impact the XPath access. That is the duty of an automation test engineer. So that is why like we are going to do the coding in the framework. So the reason why we are doing in the framework in the sense because the framework will act as an execution system. So in an execution system, we will be doing the regular execution, which is nothing but we are going to do the maintenance activity. So as part of maintenance activity, like if there is any change in UI, so it is duty of an automation test engineer to update the respective locators. Okay. Okay, fine. So now let me just try to include this as a ancestor and the descendant keyword and pose that like let me give the time for practice. I will give you a web page. You can try to traverse. So now let's say let me give an example of this ancestor and the descendant. So let me just for easy understanding always let me open the Salesforce. Okay. So now assume that I am fixing this parent node. So called as a double slash of div at id is equal to in a single slash I am just fixing this node. So this is the particular node. So from this node I need to traverse to this child. Okay, so we used to traverse? We will be using the keyword called as a child followed by colon of div. So now this child is having one more child. So which is nothing but we will be using the keyword called as an child, and then like we will be traversing with the help of the tag. But what is the relationship between this div id is equal to user container and this div id is equal to id card, in the sense obviously like it will act as a grandchild, because so this is a child and the child contains child, so which means it will contains a grandchild, it will act as a grandchild, and even this child is expandable, and if I expand this child contain many child, so even this will act as a grandchild. So what is the relationship between the like this particular id is equal to user container and this id is equal to id card or whatever the node which is present below, we call it as a grandchild. So when you need to access your grandchild, so rather than traversing line by line, so we can use the keyword called as an descendant. Okay, so we can use the keyword called as a descendant followed by colon of we can provide the tag dstndant. Okay, so we can use the keyword called as an like descendant. So when we use this descendant keyword, so this descendant will consider the child as well as a grandchild. So similar way, this ancestor will consider the parent as well as grandparent. So now if you notice, so it is showing two result. So the reason is like because even the child tag start with the div and also the grandchild start with the div. So if you need to consider only the grandchild tag, then you can add one more condition, so stating that at id is equal to id card. Okay, so I can specify it over here. So now we are able to traverse from the parent to the grandchild with the help of the descendant keyword, or else like even we can traverse from the this is the parent which we have specified, and even here we are having something called as an img id is equal to avatar, like that. If you are planning to traverse from this particular node to this node, even that is possible, because so even this is acting as a grandchild, so I can simply give the tag name called as an img. Okay, so even like it is showing the img result as 2, maybe like probably like it may have two more result. You could see there is another img tag present here. So based upon our need, so we need to specify. So now from this img node, if I need to traverse to this a tag, what is the relation? Obviously this img and the a tag is having the common parent called as an div id is equal to id card, which means it is acting as a sibling. So we can use the keyword called as an so following hyphen sibling colon of a. Okay, so by this way, like we should keep on traversing, so depends upon our need, so we should use the appropriate keyword. And now from this a tag, even we can traverse to the grandparent. So how we can traverse to the grandparent, in the sense, so we should use the keyword called as an ancestor followed by what is the tag name you are trying to traverse. We are planning to traverse to this ancestor, right? So we can give it as a div, but this ancestor tag will consider all the grandparents. So till the top of the DOM structure, it will consider all the grandparents. So which means like this is the node we were currently present. It is considering it consider the parent of the same child, as well as it is considering the grandparent, the first grandparent, the second grandparent, the third grandparent. Likewise, it is keep on traversing all the grandparents. So depends upon your need. So you can either specify the attribute or attribute value, or you can specify the index value. By specifying the index value, you can directly jump from the grandchild to the grandparent. So how we can traverse from the grandparent to the grandchild, or the grandchild to the grandparent, in the sense with the help of the keyword called as an descendant and the ancestor. Okay, so like this is how like we will be using the uh, XPath access. So like depends upon our need, so we should use the appropriate keywords like parent, child, following sibling, preceding sibling, ancestor, and the descendant. So this following and preceding, like while practicing, like I will include it up. Okay, so till this point, does anyone have any doubts?